Welcome again to our third and last series of the Chingona series. Today's topic is how to create and promote your career portfolio like a Chingona. Here's the agenda. First off, we're going to talk about what are the benefits of creating your career portfolio. Number two, we're going to talk about what are some of the things that hold us back from creating it. And then number three, we're going to get into what is inside a career portfolio. And then number four, we'll talk about ways that we can promote our portfolio. So just a quick recap on the previous two sessions. So we did start off back in March on doing a webinar on 5 tips to be Chingona on LinkedIn. We then followed that up with how to network like a comadre on LinkedIn. You know, one of the things that I oftentimes hear or see, and even hear, people post that as, you know, minority professionals, first-gen professionals, we lack social capital. No, we don't. Stop saying that. You want to know something? Next time you go to a quinceañera or a baptism, just look around how many just first cousins are there. What it is, folks, is mainstream America is not used to the way we do networking. And so in this webinar, we talked about how we can do networking really more from relationship first, business second. And again, this is the third one. Now, some good news is we have just made it really easy for you where we've been keeping on one location the recordings of the past webinars. So like Angelica said, we're recording this one and we will include it on that webpage and send it out to you. So you're going to have one location with all 3 webinars just to really, really make it easy for you to go back and review some things, or if you missed them, they'll be there. All right, let's get into it here. What are the benefits of creating a career portfolio? There are many, but let me just address the elefante, the elephant in the room. Folks, there's the pay gap, the gender pay gap. Traditionally, women earn 87 cents to the dollar compared to white males. For Latinas, it's even horrible. 57 cents to the dollar compared to white males. Now, think about this, folks. In your career lifetime, that's a loss of $1.1 million. That's a heck of a lot of money, all right? I mean, that's a lot of Louis Vuitton purses that you can purchase, all right? So please, don't just pay attention. I don't want you to just pay attention. I want you to do 2 things. Pay attention and do the things that we're going to teach you so we can stop this nonsense here. All right, what are the benefits of a career portfolio? There are many, but I'm going to touch upon 5 benefits. Number 1, folks, it's about controlling your career, our career. Like sometimes we throw the word chingona, chingon, like it's a frisbee, like super easy. Like, oh, so chingona, so chingon, like, right, I'm badass or whatever. Like, it's no big deal. And honestly, I really do believe you, okay? I really, really do believe you. And when it comes to a relationship or a friend, right, we're easy to like, yeah, take a flying leap. Why don't you do the same thing to your job? If your job, your company isn't giving the respect, tell them to take a flying leap. I mean, you control your career. Many of us don't because it's like, I need a paycheck. Yeah, I know that. But you know what we also need is respect. Number 2, by having a career portfolio, we're able to better define our brand. For me, folks, my brand today is to deliver culturally relevant career and leadership training. You look at what I post on social media and it's in line with that. Number 3, our professional value increases over time, right? You keep adding to your portfolio, just your value increase, your skill sets, your experience, etc. It just increases, right? Your pay increases. Number 4, it also gives us a sense of purpose. There are so many of us, right? Especially the older we get, that it's like we're just wandering generalities. We're like a kite without a tail, just trying to figure things out. And it saddens me. I mean, I'm 53 years old and I'm still trying to find my peers that want to hang out and go surfing with me, okay? Not watch the waves. I'm here to ride the waves. right? Get a sense of purpose. You know what most of my peers are? Life has beaten them up and they're just waiting to retire. Screw retiring, okay? I'm going to live to 150 years old. Some of you have heard me say that a gazillion times, and I am. I'm going to be all fired up and excited. And number 5, it's about ultimately, folks, attracting opportunities. I just did a post, I think 2 days ago, where I said, stop panhandling for your next opportunity. Stop begging a company to hire you. It's about attracting these opportunities. Here's an example. These are some of my clients, folks. I didn't go after them. And I say this with all humility here. Here's the latest one. The US State Department. I just literally got back about 2 weeks ago from a 12-day trip to Kazakhstan. Most of you don't even know where that is. I certainly didn't know. I had to Google that country. It's literally on the other side of the world. 22 hours just to get there. And the State Department reached out to me and said, Oscar, this is what we've heard about you. Would you be interested in speaking at this Go Viral event involving 6 countries in Central Asia? Paid everything. And there it is. Again, folks, when you create your career portfolio and you are active in promoting your career portfolio, you're going to attract opportunities. Now, some of you are like, whoop-de-doo, Oscar, like, good for you. Yeah, I can see why it happens. Okay, well, let me just share with you, some of you that don't know my story, okay? Number 1, English is my second language. Now, granted, I learned how to speak it in kindergarten, but the minute I learned how to speak English, I became my parents' translator until they passed away about 7 years ago. I actually played a dual role, the child and the parent. Right around 9 years old, I started making adult decisions and telling my parents what legal forms to sign and what not to sign. I was on the free or reduced lunch program, low income. Then in college, I went to UC Berkeley. In high school, I got good grades in English, A's, and all of a sudden I go to UC Berkeley and like, Oscar, your English writing sucks. You need to go to bonehead remedial English class. My dad, first grade education. My mom, middle school education. I told you they didn't speak English. I can even go to them and ask them to help me with my 3rd grade math worksheets. And then here's the one too that many of you, I'm just going to short circuit your brain. My natural personality is an introvert. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something, okay? Over the last 2.5 years, I've gotten used to people having their cameras turned off on Zoom. Now I like, forget it, okay? Like I literally can give the same talk that I'm going to do today, talking to the wall with the same passion and energy because I just got used to it. Now, those of you that are introverts, it drains me. It really, really drains me, any public speaking or anything like that. But again, I share these things with you because my goal here is to eliminate some of your excuses of why you aren't growing or give you hope. Either way, I'm not going to keep you here lukewarm. Either I'm going to fire you up or I'm going to take you off because that's the only way we make decisions. We're super excited or we're pissed off. If we are lukewarm, no hacemos nada. All right, let's talk about what are some of the things that hold us back. Angelica, I think is this you now?
Yes, this is, I know you're on a roll there. Don't worry, I was gonna stop you anyways. You're like, excuse me, we need a female perspective too, okay?
Thank you.
So what is holding us back? So we recognize that making a career portfolio, giving you the ins and outs, giving you the details, what to type in, what to, the whole structure of it, that is only half of the problem. The other half is what is keeping you from, taking that next step. While all of you guys have valid reasons, we can also kind of see these as excuses. And the reason why, don't go hating on me just yet, that I label these as excuses is because as women, we will find the time, the resources, the ganas, the whatever to get what needs to be done. I know some of you might have mentioned that you don't know how to create a career portfolio. Well, I know that to get where you are right now, you had to have been resourceful. You had to have, in some way or another, I know that sometime point in your life, you had to learn something from scratch, and you did. Second, time. I know a lot of you guys mentioned time, that there's not enough time. Women in my life, I have seen my mom, turn that 10-minute tardy bell that's about to ring, and she gets me there in 3 minutes, okay? So she makes time. She somehow bends time and is able to get me down to that carpool lane when I was in high school. So I know you guys can make time out of nothing. bad at social media. I hear this a lot. I don't know what to post. I don't know what I feel comfortable with. Unless you've been living under a rock for the last like 20 years. I know you know what to post on social media. I know you know what social media is. And I know that you should be on there promoting your career portfolio. These are things that perhaps excuses that we've been telling ourselves repeatedly. And so many of us get caught up in these technicalities. And then lastly, we don't know who to share the career portfolio with. We're like, oh, I have all this amazing work. I just don't know who to talk to, or I don't feel comfortable, talking to them. The truth is, and the reality of this is that these excuses are just a byproduct of this fear of failure and rejection. And that failure and rejection is what I want to address. And by addressing it, you will by addressing that situation, you then will find yourself that these excuses will slowly dissipate as you finally address the reality of the situation and what's actually holding you back. So about a couple days ago, I posted this on LinkedIn. And for many of us, I attribute this reality of fear or rejection to perhaps a micro or macro situation. And what do I mean by that? Well, let me go ahead and read this post real quick. Workplace microaggression. What is in a name? Hi, Angela. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Angel. Hi, Anna. It happens at least once a week. While most of the time I let it go, it gets tiring being called the wrong name over and over again in an email where my signature, Gmail name, and email have my correct name plastered everywhere. Some would say to let it go. Who knows, that kind of day they were having, how busy they were. I mean, Angela's pretty darn close. But guess who also has bad days and is really busy? Me, Angelica. So no, I won't let it slide. My cultural and professional identity will not be submissive to your bad day. Because when you send me an email, you are speaking to me, Angelica. Say my name, the right one. It's not a professional courtesy, it's a human one. Now, I know there are probably, and you may not even realize it right now, that there are hundreds of microaggressions that you have experienced as a professional throughout your career. And those build, and those influence that fear of failure, that fear of rejection. Perhaps even you can't even think about the microaggressions, but the first things that come to mind are those macro aggressions, those situations, those points in life where you were completely rejected for your thoughts, your contributions, your ideas. And that is the moment where you realize that your confidence took a hit and your self-worth was diminished. And so it's important to recognize and acknowledge those situations in order to move forward and in order to realize, hey, you know what? It's not so much time that's holding me back. It's the confidence to tell someone, hey, I need help so that I can have more time to create my career portfolio. Or it's the confidence to ask someone, hey, can you just read this over real quick? Like, I have 500 other projects to do. Can you help me? It's in that the truth lies, that it's not just time that you're struggling with. It's the idea that you have to do everything alone, that you have to do everything by yourself because this is a decision that you decided to make, a step in your career that you decided to do. But in reality, that's not how accomplishments are not done solely by one person. It does take effort, and specifically a community effort. So acknowledging those micro and macro aggressions, and therefore being able to finally let yourself breathe a little and, take it to the next step. And next slide. I know this is easier said than done, and I just threw like a whole 5-year therapy session at you, but I have this mental exercise that I like to do. And you'll see this beautiful picture. This is, first off, that is me in the high school graduation cap and gown. It looks like I wasn't a missing person. It does look like this is like some type of, cloth poster, but I have these hours during my workday where I call the roaming hours. And that's when my little cousin comes into my room and she goes through all my things, and she's pretends and talks to herself, yada, yada. And one time she's like, Heika, look at me. Look at me. And I was like, what? She's like, can you take a picture of me? And I turn around and she somehow has found my high school picture, my high school cap and gown, and my high school tassel. And she tells me to take a picture of her. And I was like, okay. And so I take the picture. And the thing about Mia that you have to understand is that she is fearless. She is fearless, and whatever she wants to be, that is what she's adamant about, and no one can tell her no. And so the mental exercise portion of this is when you're having those thoughts of inferiority, those thoughts of imposter syndrome, I want you to imagine someone who is a closest example to you, for ideally younger, or someone that, you know, who you see looks up to you. And the reason why I say to imagine that is because I want you to imagine every bad thought or every inferior mindset that you have and telling that to that little girl. I would never tell Mia, don't talk so loud. Like, Mia, no one wants to hear you sing at the top of your lungs. Mia, gosh, what? Mia, like, come on now, Mia. Like, haven't you said enough today? God, no, I would never say that to her. And the reason I say to pick someone that isn't yourself or the younger version of you is because the reality is we are kinder and more thoughtful and willing to give more advice out to other girls and other women that are not ourselves, because we do not give ourselves that benefit of the doubt as women. We do not. And so I want you to imagine that little girl who will eventually be in your place, who will eventually surpass all of us. I want you to imagine her. Whenever you're facing those moments of, I don't know if I should post this. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Would you tell Mia it's not good enough? No, I wouldn't. And so that's my mental exercise for you today.
I love it, Angelica. Folks, that's a great exercise there. And it's so true. It's so true that, you know, to other people that we mentor, you know, our mentees or, you know, relatives, that we would never say, right? We're always uplifting other people, or hopefully we're uplifting other people. And so, yes, I think it's so important that we do that to ourselves as well. So thank you, Angelica. It was very, very powerful. Appreciate it. So let's talk about what's inside a career portfolio. So here are 7 things that are inside a career portfolio. This is not an exhaustive list. There's many other things, but just want to highlight some things. So some of them, you know, are obvious things. For example, your skills, what roles and positions, either the role that you have or position that you have in the past, your education, any certificates that you've received, awards, accomplishments, recommendations. Even, I tell people, even something as an email from a client or your boss where there is some kudos being given to you, take a screenshot of that and save it. Okay, just take a screenshot of that and save it. Certainly recommend, I'll get into some specific examples here, volunteer work. Don't minimize any volunteer work that you do. When prior to transitioning from tech into running the local Chamber of Commerce, with the help of family and friends, I co-founded a nonprofit that was totally volunteer-based. And that volunteer experience really was pivotal, in addition to my other experience, in helping me land and get hired as the Chamber CEO. And then lastly, your subject matter knowledge. And I purposely use the word knowledge. Some of you are experts, but I use the word knowledge because sometimes, going back to Angelica's point, we are hard on ourselves and we feel that if I would have said subject matter expertise, many of us would feel like, well, I'm not an expert. And that's not true, okay? You know, it's subjective, quite frankly. So let's talk about first skills. One of the things that I encourage you to do is to do what I call a skills inventory. Literally pull out a piece of paper on your laptop, on your phone, wherever, and just write down all the skills that you have. It does not matter if you consider yourself an expert or not in those skills, even if you have some basic knowledge. And you're going to come up with a list of 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 skills. Next, I want you to go back to that list of skills and circle the top 5, 3 to 5 skills that not only are you very proficient, like expert level, but that you also love to do. So you are proficient and you love to do those things. Why do I ask you to do this exercise? Because it really, it's in a way, it's kind of self-awareness for us to really understand, again, what are we really good at and what do we love to do? Because opportunities will come our way where they might not match our skills and our passion. Also, as we are creating content and sharing our expertise and knowledge, we're going to focus on those skills that we are proficient and really good at. Roles and positions. First of all, let me tell you, don't do this. I literally went on to LinkedIn yesterday, the day before, and I came across a director of human resources. And I looked at her profile, and this is all she has. All she's done is just listed the name of the company and her title. That's it. All right. Like, it's very, very minimal. You don't want to do that. Instead, what you want to do is you want to start listing your little brief description of what the company does, but then also your role and responsibilities. And I'm going to give you one tip here. Do a Google search for job descriptions of the position that you currently have or you've had in the past. Review those job descriptions, and assuming you are doing that work or have done that work, just use some of that wording. Save yourself some time. Human resource folks are professionals, right, at creating job descriptions. So no need for us to reinvent the wheel. Next, in terms of awards, again, think back at all the awards. I don't care if it was, Employee of the Month, or, you received a certificate because you helped out, with your kids at whatever, group or program or whatever, but start gathering and listing down your awards. This is an example of awards that I've received here. And in my case, I've listed these on LinkedIn. In terms of your accomplishments, whenever possible, look at quantifying your accomplishments. Again, I've done this here when I worked as the head of the chamber. What you see here in yellow, I quantify my accomplishments there. So think about doing that in terms of the different roles and responsibilities that you have. Recommendations, all right? One thing is, again, look at reaching out to current, past coworkers, current bosses, past bosses, clients of yours, anyone that knows your work, and ask them to write you a brief recommendation. Now, ideally, the simplest way to ask for it and keep track of it is if you are connected with that person on LinkedIn. But I understand that that's not always the case. So maybe it's via email, that you ask them. Give them some guidance on what you want them to write, but reach out again for those recommendations. There's several things that happen. Number one is you're getting the credibility, right, of other people, their seal of approval. But also, it's also actually, believe it or not, psychologically, it's a good reinforcement and reminder of how amazing it is that you are, right? So again, recommendations as well is important. With regards to your volunteer experience, I also encourage you that you go certainly take it serious, your volunteer work, but even break volunteer work almost as if it was like job description, right? The name of the organization, what that organization does, what were your responsibilities in that role. Again, keep track of your volunteer experience. Sometimes for those of us that have gaps in our career, volunteer work is something, again, that we can go back to and reference and showcase in terms of our work, et cetera, and so forth, and experience. Let's talk about next about subject matter knowledge. in front of you, you see some examples of content that I've created where I showcase my knowledge. These are actually some old examples that I created a while back. Today, when I look at it, I laugh and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. But really what I did, folks, is, for example, on the upper left, it's a slide deck that I created with my thoughts on how startups can beta test their products or service out in the community. It's a slide deck that about 35 slides that I created, very simple. And a while back when I took a screenshot of that, it had almost 10,000 views. Again, just my own thoughts, ideas, knowledge on how startups can do that. On the bottom is an infographic that I created helping nonprofits utilize LinkedIn for fundraising. Very simple infographic, nothing elaborate, but again, it's just my knowledge, my expertise showcasing that. And of course, on the upper right, a picture of me speaking with my quote that I created. Okay, let's talk about promoting our portfolio. What are some things that we can do to showcase our career portfolio? The first thing is, folks, I mean, social media is around, okay, and it's not just social media, but there's different ways to do it, websites and so on. And again, I'll show you some examples. But the first step is select a platform that you are going to use. I'm okay with having a personal social media account where you showcase pictures of, you know, what you have for lunch or your selfies, whatever. Honestly, I am okay with that. But what very few people do is they don't have a social media account to showcase their career portfolio. Now, for me personally, and again, this is just me, but I use social media to help promote my career, my brand. I don't use it for fun and stuff like that. I don't. Again, but you do you. Now, I want you also next to identify your strength in terms of what is it that you are good at. And there's really three types of ways to communicate our content. There's the audio, like podcasting, for example, you know, audio recordings. There's the written blogs, or the way you write a post. And then there is the video. All right. Some people do live events. Some people flip on the camera and start talking. You know, they do Facebook Lives, Instagram Live, whatever video, or they make some really good video. What I encourage you again is pick the area where you are the strongest. I will tell you, for me personally, writing is an area that I don't really enjoy it. I can do it. I don't enjoy it. It takes me longer. Today, I know this sounds kind of crazy because as an introvert, right? You're going to be like, seriously? But today I actually find it easier to just flip on the camera and do a video recording, because I really don't give a rip, you know, if it's professional looking or not. I'm just like speaking from my heart. All right. But again, identify your strength and use that to move forward. The last thing I want to say in terms of this, folks, is there are other services that you can utilize to help you converts your content into other formats. So for example, with the video, I sometimes take the video, and there's a website called rev.com that converts my video into text format. So now I have some articles out of that video that I did. Next, follow, when you are sharing your strength, your knowledge, follow what I call the rule of thirds. A third of what you share is about your personal brand, a third is about industry, and a third other people's content that is related to your professional brand. Here's some more ideas in terms of promoting your portfolio. Again, I would say, since we're talking about career portfolio, definitely LinkedIn should be, if not the top, at the top as well. But again, other social media platforms too as well. Podcasts. There's some people that have a podcast about, and definitely, or think about creating one, or maybe for some of you, it might be too much. Then look at being a guest on someone's podcast. YouTube, right? You can create a very simple YouTube account as well. You can create a blog. There's some of you that do have a blog, and so that's great, right? That's another way that you can promote yourself. Certainly public speaking or being a moderator, all right? It's another way. And then just doing some kind of training. right? Just doing some kind of training. I mean, I'm not talking about doing training for 10,000 people, being Tony Robbins or anything like that. No, maybe it's just a small group, 3-person training that you do at your job, or, speak at, a small group, or maybe you moderate. I would tell you, for me, as an introvert, moderating would be something that I would start off to get myself out of my comfort zone before, public speaking, at least back then. Okay. That's how I would do it. But again, these are just some ideas to help you promote. Now, the last thing I want to say about this, every one of these ideas, folks, is you can take that audio version, for example, if it's a podcast, and convert it into a video and caption it. And now you have another way that you are promoting your content. Don't just limit yourself to just only one way, only podcast, only blogging, etc. Like, for example, if you have a blog, you can take a quote. Maybe it's a sentence, maybe it's 3 words from one of the articles that you wrote in your blog, and convert that into a quote and share it on social media. In fact, speaking of sharing things on social media, just keeping it simple, folks, I want to share with you also some examples of what I do. I just keep things really, really, really simple. This is an old picture, obviously, of my parents that I came across when we were cleaning out their stuff and so forth. And not that long ago, I took it and I just, on the bottom, I said immigrants and debt free. And I wrote a little story, shared it on LinkedIn, and it got a ton of engagement. And I just taking an old family photo. Here's another example. So when I was in Kazakhstan, doing some talks over there, people tend to use Instagram more. And so I had one of my attendees connect with me on Instagram, and she sent me this message via Instagram about my talk. I thanked her and I said, are you okay if I reshare this? And she said, yes. And so all I did is I took what she wrote with a picture of me doing that talk, and I shared it here on social media too, as well. Again, just taking a message that someone took. But is this just an example of me highlighting part of my my career portfolio? Here's another one. Okay. Some of you ask me, like, where are you living right now, Oscar? Like, wherever. Okay. I mean, look, I was right here at, this was about a month ago in Bacalara. It was on a Sunday. I was doing some work on my laptop, and I took this picture and I just put on it permanently out of office. And again, I just shared it. See, some of you take these kind of pictures of you, right, with your selfies, right, this angle, because it makes you look skinny. Fine, go for it. All right. But for me personally, again, my antennas are up because I'm looking for ways to create content to showcase my career portfolio. Another thing too, folks, that I want to share with you is that we oftentimes struggle with being vulnerable. This is actually my partner who on LinkedIn shared this. Folks, this is a video from the cameras that they have at their house. And she shared the video because now she's a caregiver. And she talks about her story. About 5 years ago, I was in I-10. My father suffered an aneurysm, and I went through a divorce, et cetera, and so forth. And just look at the engagement, right? The impressions. At the time, almost 25,000 impressions, a bunch of reactions, comments, et cetera, and so forth, folks. Like, sometimes we overthink and complicate things, folks, in terms of showcasing our career portfolio. And some of you might be thinking, well, but Oscar, what does this have to do with, career portfolio? Folks, at the end of the day, the person that's hiring you is a human being. It's a human being. It's about connecting with the person's heart. It's about connecting with someone who potentially can be your promoter and likes you and be like, John, you need to meet Oscar because Oscar's pretty cool. He's out there or, Oscar, you need to meet John because John is like super way cooler than you. Okay, fine. Right? But it's about, again, vulnerability is a strength. There is another area, in case you don't know this, there's a featured section on LinkedIn where you can, LinkedIn allows us to specifically highlight some of our key work. This is a screenshot of mine. And you can change it around as often as you want, to highlight things and so forth. But I encourage you, if you're not taking advantage of this feature, do it. Also, All right. You can also create, those of you that maybe a little bit more adventurous, or you don't even have to be adventurous, because you can honestly now today go on, Upwork, one of those freelance websites, and find someone, pay them to do a professional website. But my friend Jenny, right? Jenny Lopez here, she is pretty high up at her corporate company, a Fortune, I think it's like a Fortune 100 company, but she also does some coaching, et cetera, and so forth. And this is her website, right? Just showcasing in her career and professional portfolio. My buddy Zane, here's another example. This guy also has his own personal website. On his homepage, just 4 bullet points in terms of what are some key things that he focuses on: strategic storyteller, public relations imagineer, et cetera, and so forth. You click on the About Me, and there's a short little bio story about himself, and there's a link to his LinkedIn profile. Also, he has examples of his work. He did some work, summer internship, working at General Motors, and here's a video that highlights his work. So again, folks, just showing you some different ways that we can showcase our career portfolio. Now, I'm going to give you what I call a super Chingona tip to really, really highlight your career portfolio. And that is, folks, to please add some sazon, bring out the tajin, all right? Stop just with the vanilla ice cream. There's a reason why Baskin Robbins has 31 flavors. Stop being like everyone else, folks. This is from my home page on my website. If you go on to like 99.9% of the websites out there where they talk about the executive team, it's boring the way they're in. And it's all cookie cutter, right? Oscar Garcia graduated from the University of California, Berkeley with a blah, 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 BA, blah, 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 blah. And he's worked at these companies. Like, seriously? That's boring. On my website, right there, bam, I was on the free and reduced lunch, all right? I'm an introvert turned international speaker. And here's the thing. You notice how I don't just say speaker. I say introvert turned international speaker. And I don't even, not that I was, if one day I do become a TEDx speaker, great, that's not my goal. But if I do become one, I'm not even gonna put that. Why? Because one of the things that is part of my brand is to give you hope, folks. Because if this ESL, low-income kid, shy kid can do it, you can too. And this is what I mean by putting your sazon. So many of us try to whitewash the way we showcase our career portfolio. There is nothing wrong with being Latino or whatever it is your ethnicity is. Stop trying to fit in with everyone else. Final thoughts. Folks, if we learn to market ourselves, we will never need a resume. 99% of career coaches out there teach us how to be better beggars. They teach us how to create a better cover letter. They teach us how to create a better resume. They teach us how to create a better LinkedIn profile. When the reality is, if we know how to create our career portfolio, and like Angelica talked about, eliminate the excuses and believe in ourselves and truly believe that we are chingonas, we will attract opportunities. We will provide you with some free online resources. Angelica did a beautiful job of putting these resources together. So depending sort of the career track that you're at, you click on the image and we have, again, some free resources to give you. Lastly, I do want to let you know some of the types of trainings or programs that I provide. I focus on providing culturally relevant programs, all right? If you want the same old stuff, I'm not your person. Go find someone else. But I do some lunch and learns, 60 minutes, keynote talks, and then also some programs that are anywhere from 3 to 5 sessions as well. On the bottom left is my email address, our website. You can check us out for more information. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram. We also have a podcast as well that you can subscribe to. It's called Career Talk with OG, Oscar Garcia, not the original gangster, Oscar Garcia.